Miss Marvel is one of the newest TV shows from the MCU, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this show. This will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, that's your warning. And if you have seen it, be sure to leave a comment on what you thought about this show. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. So from what I've seen, there's a lot of people who really love this show, and there's a lot of people that just really don't like it. It didn't work for them. As for me, I enjoyed Miss Marvel for the most part. I do have some pretty big issues with it, but for the most part, I thought it was fun. I thought it was fairly delightful at times. The show I thought was quite charming. It's got some very likable characters. The lead, Kamala, I thought she was a great character. She's one that is fun, really engages the audience, I felt, and as well as supporting characters, her friend Bruno, as well as, I can't remember her name, but one of her other closest friends and some of her family members like her brother. I really liked those characters. The parents I thought were pretty good at the start. Sort of what they were doing with the parents with the relationship was stuff that we've seen before, but as the show went on, I thought it was developed a bit better, and you kind of understand why these parents were the way they were a bit more. So that was good. I also really liked sort of the culture and history that the show dealt with. I liked how the show was focused on people from Pakistan, or that their relatives were from Pakistan. I really liked that, and my favorite part of the show was sort of the middle section of the series when the main characters go to Pakistan and they visit with their, Kamala visits with her grandmother there, and she's sort of discovering a bit more about her powers and this thing that was passed down through their family that's sort of giving her some of those powers. But I also like how they sort of explored a bit of the history between India and Pakistan. I really liked that. I thought it was great, like very different from anything else we've really seen in the MCU. Like, we've seen some stuff taking place, like period pieces like the first Captain America movie, but this was a different history, and I really liked that, and I thought they did a really good job of making it emotional and making me, the audience, feel invested in it. Maybe some other people didn't feel that way, but I did. So that was probably my favorite part of the show. I thought it was handled very well. Like I said, one episode, like I think at least half of it, is just taking place in the past, showing Kamala's great grandparents, I believe, how they met and whatnot, and showing sort of what happened to them in the sort of split with India and Pakistan. And so I really like that, because that's something that the MCU's not explored before, so that was really cool for me. They also did a really good job of balancing the tone, I felt, in the show. Like, it's a very light-hearted show compared to some of the other ones, which the MCU usually doesn't go too serious, but this one I thought was really light-hearted even for the MCU. Not necessarily goofy, but just fun, light-hearted. Like, it's focusing on teenagers, but they managed to balance some more serious stuff with the history that they delve into. So I really liked that. Like, it didn't feel awkward or just bizarre with the shift in tone. I thought it worked, so that was really good, because those tones are very different. And so for me, that was the part of the show that I really enjoyed. But like I said, I did have some pretty big problems with this show. And to start is the first 2 episodes didn't really work for me. I wasn't feeling invested. It had charm still, but I was just sort of like, kind of forgettable. It's taking me a while to watch it, because I just wasn't invested. And it was the 3rd episode where I started to really enjoy it and get invested in what was going on. And when this show is 6 episodes long, having 2 episodes where I wasn't invested in is a big chunk out of that, so it really holds the show down for me. Another thing for me was the villains. They're pretty disposable, pretty forgettable. They're given motivations where you can understand why they're doing what they're doing, but you're not given enough time with them to really sympathize for them. And sort of what they're trying to do, the results of that, it's going to like destroy Earth pretty much. And it's sort of like, okay, yeah, that's pretty getting more run-of-the-mill. And I know a lot of people said the first half of the show felt really different, and then it got more like run-of-the-mill as it went along. I kind of felt the opposite a bit, while the villains were pretty run-of-the-mill, and that was more later on. in the show. I just thought the show overall, like the stuff it did with the history it was dealing with, I thought that was not very run-of-the-mill. But anyway, so yeah, those villains, very disposable. That part was very much just like, okay, yeah, pretty generic. And it was in the second last episode where the main villains sort of are done. They finished that story with them, and when they sort of step through this gate, I'm not sure if that's what it's actually called, but to go into their dimension, they pretty much like die once they like touch the light or whatever. So that was kind of like, okay. And then the leader of that group of the bad guys has a son who's friends with the main character in this, and when she goes through, I guess she dies and transfers her powers to him. I was kind of confused what was going on there. I may have missed something. If I did, let me know in the comments. I only watched through this once, so maybe I didn't catch something, but it just felt like, okay, that was kind of weird. And then in the final episode, the main characters are trying to help that son sort of escape from where they are, because damage control is after them to figure out what's going on. And the damage control part of this was just sort of meh, didn't really care for it. I think they should have focused on like the actual like superpowered villains and make them more sympathetic, give more time to them. I think that would have been better. But we got this stuff with damage control, and we got this stuff with that son, and it's fine. Like the final episode was fun for the most part. I just thought the execution with how they ended it with that one character, which is sort of, yeah, it was fine. Nothing too memorable in my opinion. There's some CGI in that episode and some of the other episodes, but it was used more in the final episode, I thought, and it was kind of just not the best, but I can kind of forgive it because it's a TV show. It's not going to have the same budget as a movie, and there wasn't a whole lot of it. There is some, but not too much that I wasn't like constantly being pulled out of the movie or the TV show, sorry. But other than that, like those are my two main issues, and they do hold the show down quite a bit for me, especially just not really enjoying the first 2 episodes, and that's 2 episodes out of 6, almost half the show I didn't really care for. But the characters in this were a lot of fun, very likable. They had great chemistry with each other, and the performances were all really good. I liked the middle portion of the show when they sort of delve more into the history of like the characters, but also like what was going on with India and Pakistan. I really liked that. I love that part. So for me, that was really like the really great stuff of the show. I just wish the rest of it was, like I said, very disposable villains. Didn't really care with what they did with them and how everything with that was resolved. And then the first episode just didn't catch my attention. It wasn't until the 3rd episode where I started to get interested, because I thought that was when they were really showing more what they were going to do with this show. Like, yeah, we saw Kamala have her powers, but didn't get much of a sense of like who's the big bad in this and whatnot. So those are my thoughts on the show. Overall, I would say I did enjoy it for the most part, but I just had a few big issues. So for me, I would give Miss Marvel a 69%. Like I said, I thought it was good. I thought it was fine. I just wish I got invested more earlier on. But you guys let me know what you thought about it if you have seen this. Like I said, I know there are people who really love this show. Some people disliked it more than I did. So let me know what you thought about it. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now, it may be a little while till I have another review out, because I'm going to be driving up to school in the next few days. So I'm going to be busy getting ready and then driving up there, so I don't have time to really watch anything to review. So hopefully on the weekend or early next week I'll have more videos coming out, but I'll try and get another one out this week, but I may not. It might just be this one video. So until I do get my next review out, take care everybody.